locally sourced. We are here today in Portland, Oregon at Steven Smith Teamaker with the tea master himself, Mr. Ravi Croson. Ravi, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much,
I really appreciate having us here. So I've been in here a couple of minutes now, like sniffing around, tasting around, and oh my goodness, I am like blown away by what's happening in this place. How did this begin? Where do we start? Walk me through the thing here.
Absolutely. So we started 10 years ago. Steven Smith, who actually owned prior to this both Stash and Tazo, built those companies up and sold them. You've probably heard of Tazo.
Of course, of course.
That was probably his most famous brand. And after selling Tazo, he stepped away to retire, thinking he was going to retire, and spent a year in France. And that was where his idea for this next brand came up. Seeing various local makers of things, whether it be chocolate to tailors, and just how this whole system was in place of this sort of refined craft that you see. So taking that inspiration, he came back to Portland and started Steven Smith Teamaker.
Awesome. So how did you get here?
Well, I'm actually the third head tea maker. It started with Steven Smith. Unfortunately, he passed about 5 years ago. And then Tony Tellen was his right-hand man, if you will, and stepped into those shoes. And Tony just stepped away last year to go carry on and do other projects. Mm-hmm. So they brought me in. And having 20 years of tea experience, both with sourcing as well as just working in the domestic and international tea markets for sales and procurement, it made a nice fit.
Beautiful. So cool. I'm so curious how it all ends up in my glass deliciously. Where do we begin?
Yeah, we're going to start by going through these doors here to the left. And we're going to go through our offices to our warehouse, and then we'll go into production.
Beautiful. Yeah. Let's get it.
We'll finish it up in our lab where we can have a cup of tea and see all the different teas that we
Cup of spada. I'm into it.
All right.
Thank you so much, Ravi. Let's get going.
Let's do it. This is one place we often like to stop at right here because you have a picture of Steve cupping teas at Origin. So you can see he has all these different tea samples here. And these are your classic cups and bowls. And it's really this style of using boiling water for 5 minutes and then decanting. And you really are trying to taste everything that's in the tea. And he was, really a groundbreaker in so many ways. He a trailblazer, if you will. So he really pushed the tea industry forward. So
I think the trailblazer thing fits for Portland pretty well. I feel like it fits out here.
He was the trailblazer before.
That's amazing.
Before they even won a championship. No one knew who they were. Yeah, back in '76.
That's really cool.
So this is one of our 3 warehouse spaces we have. This holds most of our retail packaged tea, so tea that's ready to go off to customers, and then just rows upon rows of finished products. So
I wish that you guys could smell what it smells like in here. Floral and spices and everything. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Fruit, and it just.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
So many people say it smells so great here, but after about 6 months, you just don't smell it anymore.
Yeah, I bet.
So actually, all of our boxes, they actually get hand-folded. So there's a really craft quality about a lot of what we do. And it takes about roughly, anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 seconds top per box.
Yeah, making boxes, man. Everything is a skill.
Yeah, so let's get on the hairnet.
So, here we go.
Yeah, it's time.
Hairnet o'clock. Cool.
Yeah.
Am I good?
You're good, yeah.
Am I good? Am I good?
Looks kind of beret-like. Here to the right, we have our blending facility. So this is where all the teas, once we formulate, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So formulation happens in the lab where we'll end up and where we'll go through all the teas. Right. And for every lot we create, so it can be a small lot of 500 pounds. Right. 500 pounds of tea we'll blend. It has to be first brought up in what's called a bench top, which is just a small representation of what the larger blend's going to look like based on the ingredients we're using, because we're using new ingredients almost every season. Yeah, for each one, not necessarily for each one, but generally between lot to lot, things shift. So we have to adjust the flavor profiles.
Yeah.
So
try to keep balance from one to the next.
Yeah, it's like blending whiskeys or anything like that.
Sure.
Yeah, you have a flavor that you're matching that you have to go back to, and you have these new ingredients and things that you're always working with.
Not just the formula of it takes 10 leaves of tea to make this bag. It is so much more in depth. I love this stuff when there's like things that have been done here, and like this is in the middle of production. We obviously like moved someone out so we could get a shot at the moment. So cool.
So what we're doing right now is sifting chamomile. So our chamomile comes direct from Egypt, and we buy about a container of it. And that chamomile, basically, there's little petals that we sift off, and we actually use those petals, little white petals, for a blend called White Petal.
Awesome.
And yeah, so we separate those two things, get the dust away, and then keep the petals, and then you have the bud of the chamomile. that you hold on to.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Who knew there was that many pieces in a flower that were so different
Yeah.
and used for different purpose? Crazy.
So this is the biggest part of our production facility. You have 3 tea sachet machines here. All these are what are called Fuso machines. Each of these pack loose leaf tea into a sachet, and we'll go around one of these machines so you can see the process itself. So tea starts up in there, and it actually gets weighted. It's a specific weight that comes into here, and as you can see, the sachet material is here. It has a tag attached to it, and as it comes down to there, it gets dropped. A single amount of it gets dropped into a sachet, and then it gets brought up onto this conveyor belt here. So what we have right here is a bag full of some of the teas that will eventually go in an overwrap. So then they'll go through this part, and as you can see right here, we have the overwrap machine here, which will actually put that sachet into that turnstile there, and then it gets packed into this box.
Still fairly efficient. I know we had spoken about some of the things in this town where everybody's taking so much care in the artistry of all the things that it's delightfully inefficient.
Yes.
Ways to do stuff. And I love that there's real people taking care of the real product.
That's right.
That care about what's going in it, and not just from the original blend, but I mean right here, people actually making sure your bag looks right when it comes out. That's amazing. It's amazing stuff. Yeah.
There's an extraordinary amount of care that goes into each of these products, so it's really important that we try to convey that.
Yeah, really neat stuff. Really beautiful. I don't know if it's time, but man, I could use a cup of tea. Cool, we are here in the tasting room. I'm so excited to taste some of these things that Ravi has done for us. We also have a special honored guest who will be doing some pouring for us. This is Donovan Eilert. Thank you so much for helping us out with this, because we're going to talk and he's going to pour, and it's going to be a very fun interactive experience. So Ravi, please. Take us to Neverland.
So what we have before us here is our signature line. And so this is consists of all the teas that we offer in those overwraps that we saw packaged out there. And the colors indicate the type of tea. So we have the green and white teas in this sort of light green mint package. The darker gray packages all signify the black teas, and then the 4 orange packages on that far side are herbal blends.
Awesome.
These encompass different countries all across the globe with each of these ingredients, and we'll go into a little bit of detail about what's inside some of these as we go down, and tell me which ones you might like, and we can talk a little bit about that. But it's really just like it's where in the world is Steven Smith? Right here when you look at all these teas. So
very cool.
What we're doing right now is actually brewing these up, so it's going to be a few minutes before we're ready to cup them.
Of course. So we were just talking about some of the culture and stuff when we were just between rooms and getting ourselves together here. I don't know where most of these teas come from, but I know we have our China relationships, you have your India relationships, stuff here. I'm sure there's things that come from here, locally sourced ingredients, which is important. Those sorts of things.
Well, we source from China, India, Japan, Taiwan, and Sri Lanka are our major suppliers for the tea. And the ingredients actually come from all over the globe. So we have ingredients that come from South America, Africa, different parts of Europe, and then America as well. So we do try to source as much as we can locally. That being said, there are only a few ingredients that do come from the U.S. We have the great fortune of not only being close in proximity, but also going out and visiting our peppermint and spearmint farmers here a couple weeks back.
So when we get to the mint tea, which might be herbals?
Yes, it's at the very end. Yeah.
At the very end?
Yeah.
Oh,
and we actually have one in one of our blends too here. So it's a Moroccan mint inspired blend of fez.
Interesting. That I'm so blown away by the amount of ingredients that come with stuff, and I love that there's a way that you're trying to decipher them. Sort of give people an idea at least. But maybe some of the give back, how you guys work with these other countries. What are some of those things as we're waiting for things to steep?
The give back program, for instance, Darjeeling was one of Steven Smith's favorite places to visit in India.
Right.
And because not only is the tea is the best tea that the British ever made, and it just has such a very distinct culture around the tea and then the community that lives in Darjeeling. So we work with a company called Broadleaf that actually works in rural schools in Darjeeling to very simple things, just helping with healthcare and education. Small things like being able to wash hands, you would think would be something that the difference between being able to wash your hands and not in a school has accounted for people dying, children dying. So it's like being able to provide those things for them as well, so they can go to school and be healthy when they go to school.
A healthy, safe, important environment that not only helps you, but benefits them at the same time. And that's what relationships are supposed to be about, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any idea of how many different countries it is that you work with? I'm so curious.
I would say probably around 30 different countries.
So you're 30 different countries all around the globe.
That's right.
Truly a world beverage, #1. And every one of these, because they're your blends here at Smith, are interesting blends of the entire world together, where all the people came together to make all these different things, right?
Yeah. It's also in a way we're living in the golden age of tea. Mm-hmm. Think about this: 100 years ago, this tea would have to get put on a ship, sail 6 months around to come to the United States. At that point, it's probably about half of the quality that it was once before, maybe even worse because of being exposed to the elements and all that.
Stuff, sure.
Yeah, to now where you can order a tea and have it in your hands. You can order a tea that was processed and made 2 days before, a day before, shipped to you, and arrived like 3 or 4 days later, and you're drinking this tea that up until that point you had to be at that garden or at that plantation to experience that same experience.
Optimal freshness.
That's right. Yeah. That is so key with tea.
Optimal freshness, sure.
That is the name of the game with tea.
Oh, awesome. Look at Donovan doing his thing. I know we're going to get into some of it in a second, but I noticed we had timers on everything. Are they all the same time? Is it how long different things for different teas?
So he was timing it. So as you noticed, he put water in these green teas a little bit later because these were at 5 minutes and then this was at 3.
5 minutes for black tea for the herbal tea, and then
185 temperature for this, and then boiling for the black and herbals. So
amazing. See, there's so many things I didn't know.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I can't wait to take this information back to the bar with me. I build a lot of syrup and things like that out of different blends and things like that. The things about temperature, about how to maximize the flavor without destroying the products is going to be so helpful. I'm sure you're going to get a phone call from me at some point when I'm building. I'm going to be like, oh, dude, what happened to that Darjeeling syrup? You know what? I got to call Robbie. Robbie, temperatures! I'm building syrup. I don't want to blow it. Tea is too expensive.
It is, yeah.
Too important and too delicious. I don't want to destroy it. Beautiful. So we're going to start beginning.
Jump in. So here, go ahead and
Cool.
have you start.
How do I do this?
All right. So this is for actually if you don't want to drink the tea, you can spit it out because it is caffeinated, and you will get caffeinated if you drink each of these sip by sip.
Obviously, I need more energy. My mantra has always been do stupid things faster with more energy. So
here we go then. Yeah. Let's do it.
Shall we?
So,
yeah.
So then you're just taking this and you're basically just taking a slurp from that. So
And get it aerated at the same time?
Get it aerated, yeah. And it's a little hot, so just be careful. Yeah. So this is our white petal. This is the white tea that we have in our offering. Just a very simple blend using a Baimudan from China. White petals, those chamomile petals that I mentioned
we spoke about
before.
earlier, yeah.
And then a little bit of peach skin flavor. So.
Oh my goodness, it's really light and refreshing. Something I didn't know tea could be to begin.
Yeah.
Just super light and easy. Oh man. Yeah, not overly floral in any way. Really cool stuff.
Yeah.
That's really great. What a great place to begin.
Yeah.
I feel like he knows what he's doing.
Also, the extent of what we're doing here, green tea being the lightest in flavor, black tea being more intense, and then the herbals we have, which are very in your face in terms of flavor profile. Starting with something more subtle and then building
our way up.
Yeah. The same way you do a flight, you want to give someone that more subtle experience so they can experience that nuance before hitting them with the hard stuff. This is our Mofeng Shui. So this is a pure Chinese green tea. It comes from central Zhejiang province, and just a beautiful, beautiful garden. One of the cleanest gardens that I've ever visited. So.
Oh wow! This you mentioned garden. The thing that makes me think of is dirt. And not that this smells like dirt, but when soil has minerality to it and that sort of thing, there's a bit of that here already in it, which is just really beautiful. The greenness of it for sure, almost like evergreen pine sort of interesting element to it, really cool.
Just I think of sometimes like fall squash.
Oh, sure.
You get the butter in there and the floral and the honey all kind of meld together at the end of that.
Yeah, and an innate sweetness on the finish of it, which is really cool. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful tea.
Yeah. So nothing added to it. That's showing the craft that happens at origin for making these teas.
That's beautiful.
So you have thousands of years of history in China building up to this moment. And people think, oh, China has this sort of stodgy, everything is still, passed down from tradition, like my grandfather's grandfather has made this tea, and now I make this tea.
Yes.
It's not like that there.
Yeah.
People, it's such a modern, hyper-competitive industry.
Market, for sure.
Yeah. And so everyone's trying to come up with the latest and greatest kind of tea and really kind of being the talk of that year. So, yeah, there's nothing.
Beautiful stuff.
This is built on the shoulders of the generations before, but it is a very modern tea.
Fez, which you spoke about earlier, the next one here.
Yeah, so this is just using this as the base, and then we blend it with spearmint and a little bit of lemon myrtle. Lemon myrtle is from Australia.
Right.
It is an intense lemon flavor. A little too much, and it's like you're drinking pine salt.
Nice.
But so you got to be very mindful of the flavor profile when you're using it in a blend.
Oh, the mint comes right to life. It brings together all that the other green things we talked about before.
That's right.
Which sort of the two things together. It's going to sound weird and cool, but it reminded me of juniper. I've done so much with gin in my life that reminiscent of that.
There's a caraway note too that I often think of.
Oh,
like that kind of with the spearmint and mint.
Yeah. Beautiful, and still that really lovely, like light honey finish. It's just, that's gorgeous. And I love the color on it, by the way. It's like.
Thank you. What we pride ourselves on at Steven Smith Teamaker, and that was kind of the idea, is to look at classics and reinterpret them. So Moroccan mint is a tea that is very commonplace in the tea world. You talk to anyone that knows tea, you mention that, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's green tea with mint. So this is our interpretation of it. It takes this classic idea and then twists it. So yeah, we use green tea. We use a higher quality green tea than anyone else would use.
That's really cool.
Experiment sourced from the Northwest.
Yeah.
And then we add lemon myrtle, which no one else does.
Yeah.
And this creates this unique sort of evocative flavor that really makes you kind of really reconsider the whole sort of concept of what a Moroccan mint could be.
I want to steep that in vodka, add a few juniper berries, and make the world's dopest gin.
There you go.
That's what I want. There's a few more here in this green tea.
So this is another Rose City Genmaicha. So Genmaicha is a Japanese-style green tea using toasted rice. And then sencha green tea.
That is so neat.
And then we blend rose petals with that, bergamot essential oil, and a little bit of manuka honey.
Oh, cool. So this one, in my thought, I love the bergamot too. It's something I fell in love with just a few years ago. That citrus element with the floral capacity of bergamot together is just, what a beautiful thing. I'm going to get in here. Oh my goodness. That drinks like soup. It's amazing. There's maybe not a salinity, but more of a robust flavor than anything we've gone through so far. Certainly.
Well, the toasted rice adds a really nice body to it.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you are getting that savory salinity kind of quality to it.
Sure.
As well,
From the rice, probably?
From the rice,
From rice, a little bit of oil maybe as well.
The tea itself, it's very oceanic. Almost, it reads like nori, and then a little bit of butter in there as well.
Yeah.
So you're getting this like complexity and this play between those two ingredients, and then you add the bergamot, and it just kind of, it stretches it out a little bit and creates this whole new dynamic.
And a long, fun finish.
That's right.
It's funny because we haven't added honey really into any of the things before. This one you said there's just a touch of
Manuka honey,
Manuka honey, right? Yeah, just a little bit, but it actually has less of a sweet finish.
Right.
Sort of just great for balance. I'm blown away by the idea of how those the innate sweetness of some of these things is being manipulated. Really cool stuff.
Lastly, on the green segment is our jasmine silvertip. Now, this is a tea that is actually made painstakingly in China, where they take the leaf.
Right.
The leaf is made in April. And then in May, actually the blossoms are harvested, and the tea and the blossoms are blended together and left to sit for anywhere from 24 hours to up to 72 hours. And then they hand pluck out all the blossoms afterwards, and you're left with that tea. So.
This is wildly more floral.
Yes.
A light sweetness on your nose as well. That jasmine reminds me of the juniper again. It's just that green flavor reminded me of that. Oh, that's really beautiful. Oh, the nose on this tea is just, woo! Yeah. Oh my goodness, Ravi. Oh my goodness.
And the jasmine we like is kind of in between, because you can have, there's a lot of different varieties of jasmine.
Right.
So jasmine can go to like very powdery floral to tropical fruit, and it kind of sits in between. So you get some tropical notes with it.
Sure.
But then you also start getting that nice powdery dryness, but it's not to the point of astringency where it's biting. It's got this nice balance.
Yeah, not like over citric, maybe like overripe mango-ish.
Right.
Yeah, maybe that root. Yeah, maybe that root. Yeah, papaya-ish. Yeah. Even maybe underripe pineapple. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because it still has some of the greenness, the floralness to it. It's very cool.
I love the fact that you are so steeped into the knowledge of flavors, because you know, it's like when we're doing tours sometimes and things like that.
People are just like, great, it's tea.
It tastes good. But you know, we want to encourage people to talk about what they think. But you know, people feel intimidated. But it's always a pleasure to like hang out with people that really understand. On the flip side.
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. What we try to do, and what I've been saying forever, I had learned it from a few chefs along the way and people that I've done classes with and things. They always say that having a good palate is having a good memory. Right. And I always say that having a good memory is reminding yourself constantly. So the more times you taste it, the more times you talk about it. Whenever I open a bottle, and wherever I am, I smell it, I'm looking at it, I try to remind myself of the flavor profile of each spirit I'm tasting. You're a sum of your own experiences, right? So my experience is like, oh, I've never eaten a bog myrtle root, but maybe if someone would show me that, I can relate it to two other things that combined in my brain remind me of what bog myrtle root is. And that's sort of, you know, what I'm loving here is that these are a sum of not only culturally, but of your own experiences and how you've, you know, created these things. I know we're going to move on to black tea, and I'm so excited.
So we're starting with pure teas, using those as the base to blend. So there's no flavorings added to these first first 4 here. So starting with Bungalow. Bungalow, again, as I mentioned before, was using 2 different Darjeelings, first flush and second flush. That's Steve's favorite location, favorite place that he ever visited in all the tea world, the world of tea, excuse me. This is what he drank. This is what he really enjoyed.
This is his baby?
His baby.
That's his baby? Well, thank you, Steve. I drink a lot of black tea. Now I'm going to drink a lot of good black tea. It's going to be different.
Yeah, we'll make sure of that, yeah.
Oh, this does have like buttery things to it. Oh, right on the nose.
So classic sort of flavor profile of Darjeelings are what they call muscatel grape. And so with this, there's almost a maple syrup note too that I'm getting a lot. And in the flavor when you first, or sort of caramel kind of in a way.
Reminds me of how we talk about barrels. It's so interesting. Was we've used tea in barrel notes as well. There is a bitter finish to black tea. That's one of the things that I really enjoy about it, is that it fleshes out a palate differently from the sweetness of the beginning to the bitterness of a finish. And I love the long finish on black tea. It just like sits for a while. And as you go through that, there's your toasty notes and cereal things that are there for it, which are probably my brain thinking about barrels and grains now. But yeah, really cool. I hadn't considered maple on the nose, but once you said it, boom, there it is.
Right, yeah.
You know? And we did a locally sourced at a maple syrup factory. I'm totally reminded of Al Woods right now. Oh my goodness, what a great thing. I'm going to start putting maple syrup in my tea.
Well, we did a vegan cheese tea for Feast, which was a big food event a couple weeks back, and yeah, we used maple syrup.
Maple syrup in the tea? That's amazing.
Yeah.
So cool.
So moving on to our Kandy. Kandy is a town in central Sri Lanka.
Candy with a K.
K, that's it. And so this is actually a blend using 3 different regions of Sri Lankan black tea. So we have Uva, Dimbula, which are the 2 major teas that we use, being the most common flavor profile. One being more sort of robust, malty, and then the other one being sort of drying, and we use it often for like Lord Bergamot and whatnot. So,
awesome.
Yeah. So you'll notice this tea has some complexity to it. It's some people here enjoy it quite a bit as just being your standard sort of go-to black.
Yeah, more like standard caramel nose,
That's
that
right,
sort of, yeah.
And then the third tea in here is from New Aurelia. So
Ooh, that bitter hits fast in that.
Yeah.
I like that.
New Aurelia is actually my favorite region of Sri Lanka, because the tea that comes from there is so floral and so light. It like really plays with your idea or concept of what a black tea could be.
I love this. I mean, talk about dry finish.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no wonder it's an all-day drinker, because you drink one sip and you dry right out, and you're like, I need another sip. Like instantly. Like, what did you do to me? These pretzels are making me thirsty.
So next up would be our British brunch, and that's basically our interpretation of English breakfast.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a really nice, balanced, complex cup of tea. We use 3 different origins here: Assam, Ceylon, and then also rounding that out with a little bit of keema.
This already has the little honey nose to it, which is cool.
So what you don't necessarily know with the complexity of this, so the Assams, for instance, we may use 8 different lots of Assams to approximate the flavor. So Donovan's job is to basically work through, when we're creating a new lot and getting ready to send it to that blender in the back,
Right.
we have to work through maybe 8 or 9 different lots of Assam, 4 or 5 different lots of Sri Lankan black tea, and then 2 different lots of keeman. And those are constantly shifting.
And finding the right blend of how these things work together to create this beautiful thing. Right. This is so much less of a dry finish. This is like classic.
Yes.
That's classic.
It's so classic.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's an old fashioned. It's like, this is, if it ain't broke, this is what it is.
Right.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. That's really nice. And then I see we're moving from brunch to breakfast.
We are. So brunch to breakfast, and this is our Portland breakfast, which is an Irish breakfast, so to speak. So Irish breakfast or Scottish breakfast tend to be a little bit more heavy, more dense than our standard.
A little darker. I worked in a pub for a really long time.
So we also turn the whole concept of a black tea blend on its head, in this because we use pu'er. Pu'er is a semi-fermented or fully fermented tea from Southwest China. So it's its own category of tea. Black tea is fully oxidized, whereas pu'er is a fermented tea. So it actually goes through a fermentation process similar to, say, yogurt or cheese or anything like that, and there's a bacteria that is creating the end result of what you find in that cup.
Yeah, it's interesting, having come from the distillery, the idea of fermentation and the smell of actual mash and how cereal grains sort of release that other alcoholic sort of thing to the air. Not that this is alcoholic in any way, but the word is funk that comes to mind.
Yes,
a little bit on it.
No, I love it. We use that. Basically, pu'er has a barnyard funk.
Yeah. We mentioned it yesterday when we were walking in. We were coming around where the spent mash goes, just across the street at the distillery. And I remember David saying, it smells like a straight up farm as we were walking over there. And that's exactly what it is, that earthy, funky, cattle feed sort of element to it.
Totally.
Really cool.
Now we're moving into our flavored black tea blends. Lord Bergamot is our interpretation of Earl Grey.
Of Earl Grey.
Yeah.
Lord Bergamot.
Lord Bergamot, yes. It's using all natural bergamot oil from Reggio Calabria.
Yeah.
So that's just down at the tip of Italy, on the boot part, if you will. We source that year in, year out, and Steve has had a relationship with this supplier for many years, going past the inception of Steven Smith.
Yeah, there's the thing I love about bergamot is like, it reminds me of peeling a lemon when I'm doing my lemon oil. Not only the floral capacity of bergamot, but like the fresh brightness of it.
So, and I also mentioned in this tea, candy, there's uva, and that's a specific region in Sri Lanka. And we use uva in this tea. It has to line up just right with the bergamot for it to actually push that up, because otherwise...
This was the one with the more bitter finish.
That's
you
right.
said, right? Yeah, that super dry finish.
Yep.
And I'm getting that here, but not nearly as much.
That's
I feel like the bergamot's keeping us away from that, like creating that interesting balance.
Well, also
sort of,
less of an amount here. This is 100% Sri Lankan. This is like, it's a much less.
Oh, man. I mean, get into tea, man. Do the thing. Holy crap.
And then lastly is our masala chai.
Masala chai bai.
So you had some in our nitro earlier, and this is the sort of loose tea version of that.
Oh my goodness. This is all about the spice notes. This is like screams fall.
Exactly.
And cinnamon and allspice.
Growing up in India and also living in sort of a around a yogic sort of community, growing up, chai was on the menu all the time. Yeah.
All the time. Yeah.
Memories of drinking little
For me,
chai.
it could be there all the time.
Yeah.
I would absolutely do that. Oh, so cool. And then we're going to get into some of these
herbals.
Herbals. Yeah, the caffeine's hitting. Are you there yet? Are we there yet?
We are. Now we're just going to ease off now, going straight into the herbals. So
very cool.
It'll be a much more easy pace, and you'll get some nice flavor. But
by the end, you'll be asleep. You won't even know it. You're like, oh, biscuits.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Donovan.
Starting with our Meadow. Meadow is a chamomile forward blend,
right?
But it's much more subtle and it has a lot more nuance than your typical chamomile blend. There's mint in there, fragrant hyssop. There's a rooibos. There's also a little bit of lemon myrtle. So it kind of goes all across the board, and then also has some beautiful flower petals in there. So something that we like to show. Yeah,
like the most beautiful version of a chamomile in the world.
Exactly. And then also taking this, just be able to open this up, you can kind of see.
Yeah, tell me what I'm looking at here.
So you got basically there's a bit of chamomile in there. Then you got your rose petals in there. You have fragrant hyssop in there. You're looking also at rooibos, some of the little small redder pieces in there. And then
see a little blue here.
Yeah, a little blue there, and that's cornflower or siani.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you can see more of that red there. That's the rooibos and stuff.
Wow, very cool. I mean, it's so different to see not your normal like dusted out tea, you know?
Right, yeah. And then these little red like slivers there, that's safflower. Yeah. So just a complex, blend of using things for taste and then also for visual. So this is something that we like to present visually and let people see because of the color in it. It's not just a monochromatic sort of product once you look at the leaf.
I'm going to take this a step further in that not only, I mean, we talked about all the different countries that these things come from and all the different places that they come from. I think that something like that, the visual of seeing the colors and the places and understanding that they're all intermingling into something awesome is important. So
that's beautiful.
Good on you, man.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
thanks for the analogy. Really, that's beautiful. A red nectar. Red nectar is basically, again, looking at some of these concepts of it's basically South Africa. So
that's awesome.
It's a blend of 3 different types of rooibos or relative to rooibos. So a rooibos is a shrub that was basically used for medicinal purposes in South Africa.
Right.
And it became discovered that it actually had a lot of good medicinal properties, so it became very popular throughout the world. So there's the brighter leaf in there is rooibos, which is an oxidized leaf. The shrub gets oxidized over a period of about a year.
Oh, cool.
Or 8 months. And then there's also green rooibos, which is unoxidized, so that's just a little raw plant. And then a cousin of rooibos, honeybush. So those 3 together, there's some natural stone fruit notes in there, and it's just a really delightful tea. This is the herbal tea that we can offer to people that are looking to add milk. Takes milk very well.
I mean, like peach blossom right off the bat. Oh, beautiful, and so sweet and awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I could see how a little bit of cream, a little bit of milk that way would flesh out the center of this palette in such a cool way.
That's right.
Yeah, pretty neat. That's beautiful stuff.
We actually were pulling shots of this using an espresso machine. Yeah, and it's just really delightful. It really comes through, and that all the flavors are expressed really cleanly through.
And concentrated in an espresso maker.
Right.
Woo!
Yeah.
What a fun idea.
Yeah. And moving on to our peppermint leaves, this is just 100% pure peppermint.
All here?
All here. Yeah. And we really are very particular about the flavor profile. So we'll reject lots upon lots to get to the right lot that we really think has the proper structure and flavor profile that we're looking for.
For what you're doing.
Definitely.
Oh, see, now this spearmint has that greenness of trees to it. An outdoor pollen. I talked about it like dirt before, but that minerality on that nose. Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. And it's a thing that's often missed in mint tea is that there's a spiciness to real mint.
Yeah.
I say spiciness, but maybe I mean like picante on your tongue, how it dances on your tongue.
Yes, yeah.
How mint dances when it's really good. That's really cool. I love to finish my day with a mint tea, so that's going to be, I'm going to be getting some mint tea.
And we're rounding this out at the end with our big hibiscus. So big hibiscus is a very flavor-forward, almost punch in the mouth, if you will, in a lot of ways. Yeah. And
Mr. T?
Mr. T. It is a bit. Yeah. It will pity the fool.
Yeah. Well, let's get in. Oh my God, the color on that looks like cranberry. It's crazy.
Right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is one of the most visually striking teas that we have on this table.
Yeah.
And we use it often when we're trying to feature teas for the purpose of color.
Yeah, I've used some hibiscus before in cocktail stuff, which is beautiful in cocktails. It measures so well, but I could never get it to be this beautiful color.
Right.
Oh my. Oh, talk about a punch.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that sort of sour tartness to it. That's really awesome. So, oh my goodness.
The hibiscus, very specific about the hibiscus we use too, and it's like about getting this right sort of juicy depth to it, because hibiscus can vary from very light, like slightly floral, to this more dense tart flavor that we're looking for.
Yeah, the tartness, but also to flesh out the entirety of the palate, a dry finish, really, where I'm like, certainly not the same bitter on the back, where I'm getting a lot of floral on the back, which is really cool. Like, I feel like I'm breathing flowers. But I mean, what a vast difference, and who knew from where we began with that really super light, easy drinking refresher of the white petal, all the way down here to this big hibiscus. Oh my goodness, the breadth of tea is just blowing my mind. Ravi, I cannot say enough amazing things about being out here and you having me. Just thank you so much, number one. Number two, for everybody out there, when you come to Portland, do this. Come to Smith Teas. Have Robbie walk you through this, or Donovan, or one of the amazing people on staff here. Do a tasting, do the thing. Visit westward across the street. Come to Portland, the trailblazers of every industry, or so it seems. Robbie, thank you so much for having us.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. We'll see you next time.